My view on the Kimberly Clark fire aligns similarly to how I'm feeling about AI layoffs really being about replacing people with lower wages. I don't know that this happened both at Kimberly Clark, but bear with me here. So if you don't know, Kimberly Clark just had one of their plants burned down by an employee who uploaded a video of himself saying while he lit the flames, all you had to do was pay us fairly. Did some Googling about has there been like wage issues and concerns at Kimberly Clark. I haven't found any, but also people don't go to jail and prove why they are going to jail for no reason. And we are seeing with AI that a lot of companies are laying people off for AI and then realizing it's not going so well and bringing people back before a much lower wage than what they had before. And of course, people have reason to believe that that is on purpose. They know AI can't do anything, that this is the excuse for, well, you don't have to do as much because we have AI now. So what am I getting at this? I wrote in my book, in the introduction, on the section of why do we need to care about the unwritten rules of work right now? Why do we need to care about workplace cultures, even with everything going on? And I gave 6 reasons why we need to care about this. And the first reason was AI. And the third reason is the employee engagement crisis, that people are very disengaged from their work and that this is costing the global economy an estimated $1 trillion every year. Because when people are not engaged, you actually don't get the same productivity. And what really demotes people from being engaged is treating them like shit and not paying them enough. So I wrote in my book, Gallup estimates that disengagement will cost the global economy $8.8 trillion in 2024. Further, they predict an engaged workforce could increase the global economy by $9.6 trillion. That's a 9% increase in global GDP. It is hard to take a number as large as the global economy and see how much it costs your specific business. Gallup also estimates that each disengaged employee costs their organization 34% of their salary. This means that for every $10,000 you pay someone, $3,400 is paying for nothing. That would be like trying to put out a fire with buckets of water, but 1/3 of the water leaks out before you can use it. Yet you fill it up to the top every time. Cutting salaries won't change that. It'll increase the bitterness and decrease the likelihood of you finding good talent. It's pouring less water into a pail with a bigger hole and wondering why your building is still burning. I firmly believe that addressing the unwritten rules of work will help reduce this leakage and this waste. Now, it's ironic that I used a burning building as an example. I do not condone arson, but I also know that it is extremely stupid to break the social contract with employees so much and expect different results. We have seen over and over and over again, even in short American history, but also in world history, that when people cannot make ends meet and you don't listen to their civil demands, that things get violent. And why white-collar crime is not taken as seriously as other types of crime is because people with white collars make the laws. It is not going to be seen as much of a problem that Kimberly Clark apparently had wage issues, more so than burning a building down. So we know from everything, especially the Black Lives Matters protests, people's personal property in the United States is always seen as more important than people's lives or livelihoods. Now, it does surprise me a little that it's Kimberly Clark, not because we have a healthy work environment right now, but because the only client I've ever had who worked at Kimberly Clark was about 12 years ago, and they absolutely loved it. They said the environment was wonderful, the pay was good. Granted, that was 12 years ago, and that's one person. But I searched, I tried to find, have there been lawsuits going on with Kimberly Clark? I didn't find anything, but that could be part of why someone started doing something so drastic, because it was being overlooked. And my take on this above all is it's just so frustrating that it has to get to this point when there are so many things that can be done if just a very small amount of people weren't so fucking greedy. There's a lot I still don't know about the Kimberly Clark situation, so I'm speaking more generally here of I am not surprised. My take is I'm not surprised these things are increasing. This to me seems similar to people, as I also mentioned in my book, people having no empathy for the Titan submarine tragedy in 2023. Luigi Mangione in 2024, Blackstone shooting that was meant to be the NFL shooting. All of these things are very predictable, recurring cycles in history of when a few people get so greedy, don't make it worth the workers' time, that the lawsuits, the HR complaints, when all those are ignored, they do not just go away. They escalate. In my field, we call this counterproductive work behaviors, and we're usually referring to things that are a lot smaller than arson that do impact the bottom line. When you do not pay people well, and when they resent you, and when they don't have anywhere else to go, they do start stealing from you. Stealing time, stealing printer paper, whatever, because they perceive it as unfair and they are doing what they can to tilt the scales. And then some people, eventually, if it gets so bad, they think it's worth going to jail over it. Now, there is also a part of me that knows that in the United States, especially men will sometimes do things for the notoriety. That is where they feel like the only power they can have is. I'm not excusing it. See this with a lot of people who become school shooters or whatever. Like, again, it's not okay or good. But there is that element in our culture that glorifies, especially when white men do this. I don't think the Kimberly Clark guy, I'm not sure what his background is. Alleged arsonist, he hasn't been charged, right? So I have to be careful how I say things on here. Like, we all knew it wasn't a woman. That's what's never talked about. Everybody wants to make it about immigration or race or whatever. And like, a consistent thing is a lot of these crimes are by men. And there's a cultural aspect to that. Women are expected to do a lot of free labor and are often paid less. But we're culturally shamed from violence, which is why I've had videos on why especially white women from middle class backgrounds do a lot of relational aggression, because don't have that anger in us, but because we're conditioned to show it differently. So we'll have to see how this plays out in the Kimberly Clark specific scenario. However, I mean, if you've been following me, you know I've had major issues with my publisher. I finished this book last year, and I wrote that because with how much inflation we've had since COVID, with how much we know, and even executives have admitted, we had the Kroger CEO admit in Congress, I think in 2024, that it wasn't just inflation. They just raised prices in their grocery stores more than the cost of supplies rose during COVID. We just had the Delta CEO come out and say that the oil crisis with the war with Iran is going to be great for their margins because they're not going to bring the cost of flights down when the oil cost comes down. That when you have these rising costs and you have this brilliant idea of laying people off and then bringing them back for the same fucking job for less money, that everything's going to be okay. And it doesn't have to be this way. I'm a business owner. I'm not anti-business. I'm not anti-leadership. But I do think we have a leadership crisis. We have rewarded sadistic, psychopathic behavior, especially from white, neurotypical men, wealthy men, more than anyone else. We've focused on short-term profits over long-term. Something that isn't factored into those spreadsheets is your layoffs may have improved your margins that quarter. But yeah, you may have upped the risk of people burning plants down long term. Now, they probably have an insurance bailout, and they're probably going to take it out on their employees. That's the irony. I've worked in a lot of organizations in the U.S. government, in consulting, private sector, and academia. I have never seen anywhere take account of how much they spend on people problems and repeatedly be shocked by people problems. And that's why I wrote this book. That's why I do the leadership training and the coaching that I do. It does not have to be this way.